Roy Miller observes a specific flight to Boston is delayed as he strolls through the Wichita airport. While checking in, June Havens, a stunning blonde woman, totes a large carry-on luggage and inquires as to if she has a seat on an earlier flight than she had originally planned. As they pass through security, Miller is spotted observing Havens, and he runs into her a couple of times. The expert mechanic Havens, who restores historic automobiles, describes to the security guard the unique vintage components in her carry-on bag. They are for the 1966 Pontiac GTO her father owned, which she is refurbishing for her sister as a wedding present. She is informed at the gate that her flight is overbooked even though she has a verified reservation for it. Miller manages to board while gently reminding her that sometimes events take place for a purpose. Miller is talking to his boss about something called the Zephyr while being watched by CIA Special Agent Fitzgerald, who Havens is unaware of. Through airport security cameras, Fitzgerald notices Miller colliding with Havens and wonders who she is. Fitzgerald's colleague inquires as to whether Havens should be picked up by Wichita-based field agents, but Fitzgerald responds that he has a better plan. The flight's gate agent notifies Havens that a seat has been found for her, and she may board in a brief while. When Miller notices Havens board, he is shocked since he knows Fitzgerald is to blame. Havens observes that there are only about 4 or 5 other persons aboard the plane. While Miller observes the other passengers, she relaxes with a drink and shares with him her ambition of one day traveling to Cape Horn in the rebuilt GTO. Miller laments that the word someday is a code for never. When there is a brief period of turbulence and Havens spills her drink on her shirt, she is charmed by Miller and uses the loo. Miller is attacked by the staff and passengers who are still on board while she is preoccupied. The pilot demands to know the location of the Zephyr before attacking, and the flight attendant is also dismissed. Miller challenges them and asks to know the rationale for Fitzgerald's decision to board Havens. Havens approaches to kiss Miller as she steps out the toilet and notices him carrying 2 drinks. Miller explains to her calmly that everyone on board has died. Up until Miller gets in the cockpit, Havens plays along, believing him to be joking. She witnesses the dead bodies spilling out onto the aisle as they flip over in their seats during a period of turbulence. Miller makes a highway landing, but the plane skids off the end of the runway and into a cornfield. Havens receives a drink from Miller to help her relax, but she quickly realizes that she has been drugged. The evil men are going to find her and come meet her, Roy warns her. She needs to emphasize that she doesn't know Miller, that she must never go in a car with them, and that she must be extremely cautious of the phrases safe, stabilize, and secure since, particularly if they are used repeatedly, they indicate a desire to kill her or at the very least imprison her somewhere where no one can find her. As Havens collapses, the plane catches fire. When she wakes up at home, she discovers that breakfast has been prepared, that her clothing has been cleaned, and that water and aspirin are by her bedside. Miller left her notes to remind her that she doesn't know him. Havens is unaware that she is being watched as she rushes to get suited for her sister's wedding. Havens suffers all day while trying for bridesmaid outfits for the wedding of her sister, April. When the topic of their father's GTO comes up, Havens is astonished to hear that April wants to sell the vehicle. A man entices Havens out of the store by saying that her truck is about to receive a citation. However, she is encircled and confronted by Fitzgerald and his agents, who force Havens into one of the automobiles. She insists that she doesn't know Miller, but Fitzgerald produces security tape from the airport that demonstrates that he ran into her and spoke to her there, as well as evidence that she was on the same flight as him. When Havens swears she and Miller did not talk about any FBI agents, he questions whether they called up Simon Feck, a name Havens is unfamiliar with. Fitzgerald utters the words Miller forewarned Havens about. She will be transported to a secure location until Miller is restrained, someplace safe. Miller appears out of nowhere and rescues Havens after engaging in intense automobile chase, shooting, and acrobatics. As Miller gets started in a gunfight, Havens flees, grabs a bus, and heads to the fire hall where her ex-boyfriend, Rodney, works as a firefighter. After hearing her story, he assumes she is just overly stressed from the wedding and takes her out for pie. However, as they are talking, Miller arrives and takes Havens. He also handcuffs Rodney and shoots him in the thigh, inflicting a flesh wound. Miller provides that footage was captured by the pie shop's security cameras that will portray Havens as his prisoner and deflect attention away from her, at least in the eyes of the local police. He admits that he made an effort to discourage her from boarding the aircraft. Roy drives into a garage, climbs a roof, and uncuffs Havens when she angrily objects that she felt safer with the agents than she does with him right now. He then lets her go but disgustingly informs her that she has a much shorter life expectancy without him than with him. He needs to take care of someone else's safety in the interim who has more faith in him than Havens does. This convinces Havens, and she consents to go with him as they pick up Simon Feck, a brilliant inventor who developed the Zephyr, a perpetual energy battery. Miller explains that while keeping an eye on Feck, he discovered Fitzgerald, the agent who drove Havens around, had plans to kill Feck, sell the Zephyr, and blame Miller as a rogue agent for the entire thing. At his safe house in New York City, where he left Feck, Miller and Havens show up. Although he is missing, he has left a note saying he can be discovered on a train in Austria that is buried among mathematical problems. The two are quickly ambushed by men working for Spanish arms dealer Antonio Quintana. Between their abduction and escape from Antonio's men, Havens experiences a hazy state of awareness after Miller drugged her once more. Miller takes her to his place of residence, a lonely island in the Azores, where he lives. Havens finds a message on Miller's mobile phone after Miller wanders the island in frustration. It contains a movement alert, a satellite zooming in on a Boston address, and a garage with a man polishing a 1967 Grand Prix. Her sister's caller ID appears on her cell phone as it rings as she is examining this. She mistakenly directs Antonio's party to the hiding place by picking up the phone. After returning to Miller and laughing at him, Havens tries to strike him. Miller deflects all of her attacks before catching her in a grapple and showing her how to escape. They both giggle as she drags him to the ground and then rolls him around in the sand. However, Antonio has deployed a remote drone to kill them, so its arrival is no laughing matter. They succeed in getting to Miller's helicopter. Miller gives Havens a Vulcan neck pinch to put her to sleep because she is scared of flying but doesn't want to be drugged again. He then takes her aboard a train that is traveling through the Alps. Havens wakes up by herself, misses a message from Miller, and heads to the dining car for breakfast where she runs across Bernhardt, a German assassin. Havens introduces herself as a friend of Miller and strikes up a conversation with him after mistaking him for Simon Feck. Bernhardt is a different person. She quickly makes her way to the train galley, where Bernhardt catches her and tries to kill her. When Miller and Feck appear, Miller challenges Bernhardt in combat. Bernhardt catches Havens in a struggle as she tries to strike him. Havens escapes the grasp by using the technique she picked up from Miller, impaling Bernhardt on his own knife as a result. Miller follows by throwing him out a window, where he is presumably killed by an approaching train. Fitzgerald is in charge of an investigations at the following station. Feck, Havens, and Miller have all left. Fitzgerald blows on the window of the car they had been riding in and notices a circle mark that has been left behind. Miller may be seen outside, staring at him, until he blends into the crowd as he looks through it. Miller checks Havens and Feck into a hotel in Salzburg before leaving for an appointment with Naomi, a strange and stunning woman. Following him, Havens overhears him discussing a contract to sell Antonio the Zephyr. When the Wichita airport cameras are sped up, they appear to show Miller slipping the Zephyr into her carry-on bag the first time he bumped into her and then retrieving it the second time, suggesting he used her as a mule to smuggle the Zephyr through airport security with the bulky metal parts for her father's car, hiding it from metal detectors. Isabel George, the director of counterintelligence, is present when Havens meets with her. Miller has been identified as a rogue agent by Director George, who also provides her a pen to use as a signal when she is with Miller and the Zephyr. She is greeted by Miller once she returns to the hotel, where he demonstrates the Zephyr to her as it is beginning to overheat. When Miller sees Havens using a pen transmitter to alert the agents, she gives her a heartfelt farewell before running for the roofs. Miller is reportedly shot before falling into a canal after leading the CIA agents on a chase. Fitzgerald discovers that the Zephyr is gone. Since Miller had the Zephyr on him, the director assures Havens that they will find his body. Before her sister's wedding, she returns home in time to participate. As Feck travels through Germany, Fitzgerald and his companion are in the car. They should be traveling west, but Fitzgerald's companion observes that they're heading south. Fitzgerald phones Antonio to inform him that he will meet him in Spain in 2 days with Feck after shooting and killing his companion. After the wedding, Havens is sadly informing her coworker that April doesn't want to hold the GTO at her garage. On a Grand Prix, the companion is engaged. When Havens hears the music Miller had set as his ringtone on the radio, she Googles the location she recalled from his iPhone. She notices that it is only 1 hour distant and assumes that Miller may visit or has visited this safe home. As she drives there, Havens notices that she is being followed and employs another Miller ruse to fool them. When Havens first enters the home and meets Molly and Frank, she realizes that they are Miller's parents. She finds out that Miller is actually Matthew Knight. After a helicopter crash in Kuwait, they fear their son, a former Army sergeant and Eagle Scout, is dead. Frank claims that he and Molly never entered any lotteries or sweepstakes, but Molly claims that Frank is never aware of what he's typing into their computer. Frank and Molly are obscenely wealthy as a result of winning these contests. After leaving the Knights, Havens calls her own voicemail and sends a message saying that she is aware that her phone has been bugged and that she has the Zephyr and is interested in making a deal. Soon Antonio's soldiers have her in their possession, and they return her to Seville. Truth serum is given to her, making her feel calm and content. Antonio is aware that she wasn't holding the genuine Zephyr but a replica. During questioning, Havens learns that Miller wanted her to hear his call to Naomi and follow him so that the agents would be directed to him and Havens would be free to go home. When Antonio becomes impatient and asks where the Zephyr is, she responds that she doesn't know, but that she lied about having it since she knew that would help her find Miller. Antonio yells angrily, "Get rid of Havens." Feck's kidnapper Fitzgerald has arrived at Antonio's property to negotiate a deal for Feck. Fitzgerald wants to give Feck to Antonio so that he may force him to construct another Zephyr. Feck is imprisoned in the trunk of Fitzgerald's car. Miller, who has been following Feck using an iPhone tracking app, has also arrived at the property. Miller intervenes to save Havens just before she is executed. On a motorbike, they chase Fitzgerald and Feck while avoiding Antonio's men at the running of the bulls. When Antonio tries to shoot Miller during the chase, the oncoming bulls flip his car over and trample him underfoot. Over Feck's objections, Miller catches up to Fitzgerald at a pier for an amphibious plane and trades the Zephyr for Feck. Fitzgerald turns to kill Feck when he resignedly states that he'll manufacture another one. Havens hears the gunfire and observes Fitzgerald making off in the Zephyr, which is now sweltering, in the amphibious craft. Feck says that he built the Zephyr incorrectly and that the battery is unstable. Fitzgerald is killed as the battery explodes as they watch the aircraft climb. Feck is sent to seek assistance after Havens discovers that Miller took the bullet intended for Feck's death. In a hospital in Washington, D.C., Miller awakens. He receives an apology from Director George, who explains that Fitzgerald, the genuine rogue in the CIA, completely duped her into believing that he had eliminated a corrupt squad. When he inquires about Havens, he is informed that she has gone home. He is told that in order to keep working, he must not be distracted by her. Director George also tells Miller that the agency will transfer you to a secure facility tomorrow, for your safety, using the exact same phraseology that he previously forewarned Havens about. Miller receives his medication from a nurse as they exit. When Miller realizes the nurse is Havens, he also realizes that he has been drugged. She leaves the hospital undetected with Miller in tow, getting into the restored 1966 GTO with them. On a Mexican beach, Miller awakens in the passenger seat of the car as Havens gets out of the seaside store. When he inquires as to the day, Havens gives him a kiss and responds, "Someday." He nods in agreement as she informs him that they're going to Cape Horn. As they leave, Havens and Miller see a sign for Cape Horn as they drive along a seaside road. In the closing scene, it can be seen that the Knights have just been given 2 tickets to Cape Horn, where they will likely meet up with their son. Despite the fact that Molly thinks her husband ordered them inadvertently, she insists that they go since she believes they won. Well, that's all for today's video. We hope you enjoyed it, and please support us by subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to get notification for new videos every we post.